I guess if you've been following Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. And their business endeavors over the past year or so, they've been involved in a lot of different industries. They've gotten into crypto, they've gotten into drones, manufacturing SPACs. But if you kind of pull back the curtain, there's one guy who's been involved and played a role in all of these deals. And as you mentioned, his name is Kyle Wohl. He works in this kind of section of the stock market that's normally pretty unglamorous world of micro caps, so very small publicly traded companies.
I mean, we're hesitant to ever like even sometimes report on them. Like we're careful about it. We're cautious, aren't we?
It's more that these are the types of companies that are so small in comparison to, like, we're not talking about like the Microsofts and Apples of the world. These are relatively small. They can be wildly volatile. Investors are kind of warned by regulators that this is a corner of the market that can be more susceptible to fraud sometimes. So it's kind of, like I said, like a little bit unglamorous, maybe forgotten part of the investing world. And so what we've seen in February is that the Trumps have become advisors to Dominari, which is a bank, an investment bank that helps kind of shepherd some of these microcaps onto public markets.
How did he even situate himself to that? Because I looked him up, and in your story, you detail that he kind of had this traditional Wall Street path, but then now he's somewhat a financial fixer, or he's in the middle of all of these gains.
He might not, yeah, he's not exactly a household name, but he has had a path from Morgan Stanley, Oppenheimer, names that are well known. Dominari may be a bit less known, but in February, when the Trumps joined, I think that's when when people really became interested in this company, and they were wondering, what is it? What does it do? So Don Jr. and Eric joined as advisors, and they've also been cut in on deals that are incredibly lucrative in an incredibly short period of time.
Well, Zach, come on in on this. And yeah, I thought about that too. It's like, I'm sure the Trumps get lots of propositions of look at my company or come work with us and stuff. So it's always intriguing to see how someone actually makes some inroads. But talk to us a little bit more about that. And then what he did in terms of helping grow some of the Trump wealth, particularly for Don Jr. and Eric Trump.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Kind of two things happened around the same time. One was that when Trump was out of office, but between his first term and his second, Kyle Wohl and his investment bank, Dominari, sort of made a conscious effort to get to know the Trumps and to kind of form a relationship that could be profitable for the firm. This was like a brand new firm that Kyle Wohl had essentially just started up. He had done a bunch of other things in investment banking. He had a lot of experience, but this was kind of a startup firm. So they rent out some offices in Trump Tower. He organizes outings at Trump golf courses, gets to know various Trump officials, not just the family, but also other executives at the Trump organization. And then, lo and behold, he starts doing deals where he's cutting in either Donald Jr. or Eric Trump in on deals, or other Trump org executives who are not household names.
Yeah.
And in some of these cases, they're announcing that, Don Jr. is joining this company as an advisor, and the stock goes crazy, or Eric Trump is going to be involved with this company, and all of a sudden there's tons of attention on it.
But what did he do rightly, I must say, that led him to where he is today? Because to Carol's point, so many people must have been propositioning themselves to Trump. I mean, he is the president of the United States. His family is into the business. What did he do correctly?
Well, if you remember, there was a time when maybe it wasn't quite as crowded a field. Like right after January 6th, there were a lot of people in corporate America who were trying very hard to not be associated with the former president, soon to be former president, and that was right around the time that Dominari or Kyle Wohl, I think, saw an opportunity, to rent a place in Trump Tower, which I think they began renting in 2021.
So he was loyal.
Well, or maybe he spotted an opportunity.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that's true.
Physical proximity definitely helped. You have Trump Tower. You have he was a member of a Trump golf course in Jupiter, Florida. So there was definitely some ability to have FaceTime, honestly.
Listen, we've all done it, right? When, we're reporting on something or want to know about something, like you could find an event or something and you just are getting close to something. What I want to, though, set the record straight, Annie, they're not doing anything wrong, right? He's an advisor and he's just saying, hey, guys, this is a good opportunity.
Well, the Trumps are advising Dominari now. And so, and really big picture, if you step back and look at the different businesses they've become involved in, it's not just Dominari, the investment bank, to microcaps. There are other companies where the Trumps have become, or the Trump family, Donald Jr. and Eric Trump, have become involved as well. So American Bitcoin is one of them. It's kind of a Bitcoin mining firm. Again, just like a totally new venture as of this year. Last year, Donald Trump Jr. became an advisor to this drone company called Unusual Machines. So,
and these are all deals kind of orchestrated behind the scenes by Kyle Wohl.
Exactly.
Right.
And so
so here's the whiteboard again, right? And you're like,
he's at the center in some ways.
Right.
And stepping back, these are companies that are operating in areas where, of course, the administration, what the administration decides and actions the administration take, will affect these industries. It doesn't mean that there's necessarily on paper. It's what opens an avenue for a potential for conflicts of interest, which the Trumps say the Trump brothers say they're private businessmen, and it's all okay.
Well, that's what I wanted to do, Zach. Like, what do we hear from the Trump organization? Maybe what do we hear from the White House? Like, what do we hear from folks on their side about this?
Right. I mean, the Trumps didn't choose, other than a very brief comment, didn't choose to comment for our story. But what we've heard from them a lot in the past is essentially that they're private business people. They have every right in the world to go out and make money, and that they're not using their influence. They're not telling business partners that they're going to influence their father to make money. They're saying they're great business people. They have a career in real estate. They both have experience in a big real estate company, and they want to go out and make some money, and there's nothing wrong with that. And our reporting didn't reveal that they are behind the scenes are actually asking their dad to do things on their behalf. But that doesn't mean that even from a perception level, there can't be a concern about potential conflicts. We mentioned a number of cases where the administration either is doing something or could do something. And as an outsider, you never really know, are they doing that thing that helps Bitcoin because of a good policy or because the sons are involved in American Bitcoin? We genuinely can't know for sure.
And we see it in the trade every day. I think about some of the stories we talk about because of something that comes out of either Trump family initiatives or policy, and you look at kind of the connections.
What about, so over the years, Wohl has also faced around 5 complaints to FINRA from clients claiming, among other things, that he put their money in unsuitable investments without authorization. Can you talk a bit more about that? Because I think this is one of the tensions you highlight in your story.
That's right. So those are kind of regulatory complaints that have been resolved in various ways to the financial regulator FINRA. So when we brought those to Kyle briefly, in brief, he said this is part of being in the industry, but that's, part of his track record in financial services. The other thing I wanted to mention, to Zach's point, is there's something about the Trump brothers joining some of these advisory boards that's reminiscent in some ways of something they've done for a while, which is beyond just building buildings. The Trump organization has collected millions of dollars doing something else, which is licensing the Trump name to buildings built by others.
Which is a large part of what they do now, right? In terms of not really owning real estate, but the branding and the name.
The branding. There's a lot in the brand. And so I wanted to mention that there's almost, it kind of rhymes what's happening here in some ways, where you have Eric Trump or Donald Trump Jr. joining a board, and it like lends the brand in some ways, which can make a stock go flying. And indeed, we've seen that happen.